Thank you very much for coming to cover the 35th Annual General Meeting of the Federation of Kenya Employers Rift Valley Branch. I have with me the Regional Branch President, Mr. Ken Odire, who is also the CEO of Lipton. And our chief guest today was Mr. James Nyamungo, the CEO of Nairobi Hospital. I have also members of the executive committee of this branch. The members of the Federation of Kenya Employers Rift Valley Branch gathered under the theme Enterprise Resilience and Sustainability. During this annual general meeting, we transacted our normal business. We reviewed the developments in the labor sector over the last 1 year. We looked at the status of businesses in this region and also discussed some of the priorities we want to pursue in the next 12 months. In terms of the general state of the economy, we have figures from the International Monetary Fund that forecasts that the real GDP growth, which stood at 3.2% last year, will remain practically the same, but for Africa, there will be a slight improvement of about 0.4%. Our concern as employers is that these slight indications of improvement in the GDP are not being felt on the ground. Members also considered the concerns over the geopolitical tensions that we are seeing in the world today. The Russia-Ukraine war continues, Israel-Hamas, tensions between Israel and Iran, and the fears are that this could go into a full-blown war. We are also aware that the US elections are under discussion here in our region. South Sudan elections are also in the offing. We have some security challenges in our continent as well. The other phenomenon that is impacting Africa generally is that we are seeing an emergence of youthful leaders across the continent, and this will shape the trajectory of our economics, not just this year, but in the years to come. Coming closer to home, Kenya has faced a prolonged period of economic challenges, significantly impacting microeconomic performance at grassroots level. The trend has continued this year. Many of our enterprises are closing, downsizing, or relocating to neighboring countries due to the high cost of doing business. In contrast, input and purchase prices saw a decrease in Q1 this year compared to the previous quarter. This we are attributing to the easing of commodity prices. The agricultural sector, however, experienced a surge in demand to 39.6%, production was at 24.7%, and sales at 33.6%, which is supported by favorable weather conditions. But the concern is that full-time employment remained largely unchanged due to increased costs of farm inputs. However, these figures that show some slight improvement in the agricultural sector and others is not being felt by the CEOs, who generally have talked about a decrease in demand and an increase in sales prices. So there are mixed signals about the performance of the economy. For sectors such as manufacturing and services, there's been a sharp lowering of production volumes, and this is due to the lower consumer demands. So the agricultural sector is the one that stood out, where we are seeing higher production volumes. But of course, this is now under threat given the vagaries of weather, the heavy rainfall that we are seeing. Our appeal to the government as employers in this region is to create an enabling environment for enterprises that fosters innovation, entrepreneurship, and investment. This includes providing access to capital, promoting market competitiveness, streamlining regulatory processes, and offering incentives for growth and expansion. These are measures which are crucial for unlocking the full potential of our economy in this region and ensuring that economic growth translates into tangible improvements in the quality of ordinary Kenyans who we know are suffering today. We have also discussed the state of labor relations, and employers are keenly concerned about the protracted strike by the doctors. The Federation is deeply concerned about the suffering of Kenyans, and that Kenyans have nowhere to go when they need medical help, medical cover, medical attention, because our public health services have no one to attend to them. We have seen some tragic consequences on the loss of lives, and of greater concern is that the impact that the rains are having obviously is also adding to the challenges, the health challenges that Kenyans have, and they will have no reprieve because they cannot access hospitals, or if they access, then there's no one to attend to them. We did discuss this issue during the just concluded Labor Day celebrations, and our appeal to the government and the doctors is for them to commit to meaningful mediation so that they can find a middle ground, find a meeting ground, give social dialogue a chance so that the standoff can be brought to a conclusion to alleviate the suffering of Kenyans. The Federation of Kenya Employers has been involved in the conciliation process, but our concern is that it has not yielded tangible fruit and the doctors remain out of work. The state of labor relations is therefore tense, arising from this major strike in a very key sector of our economy. We looked at the performance of various key sectors in this particular region, such as the tea sector. The tea sector plays a pivotal role in our economy as a nation. It contributes about 23% of the country's foreign exchange earnings and provides an estimated 5 million direct jobs, supporting around 10% of the Kenyan population. This sector is, however, besieged by high levels of taxation, which pose a threat to the sector, potentially leading to a decline in its global market share. The significant level of employment within this sector makes it particularly vulnerable to the impacts of taxation as it raises operational costs and reduces profitability. There is need to strike a balance between imposing fair taxes and fostering business sustainability and creation of employment. We want to see the protection of jobs by enterprises in this region, and that will come if they have a stable operating environment. The other challenge the tea sector is facing is low prices of their tea. And these low prices not only undermine the profitability of tea plantations, but also have a ripple effect on workers and communities that rely on this sector for their livelihoods. This calls for concerted efforts from all stakeholders, including government entities, industry players, and market regulators, to collaborate on implementing solutions that stabilize tea prices and ensure the long-term sustainability of this crucial sector. The other challenge facing the tea sector and all the sectors in this region is the cost of energy. Businesses in this region are significantly impacted by the cost of energy, which remains a critical area for cost reduction efforts. Of course, there's also erratic supply of energy, as we saw from the national blackout yesterday evening. So there is need to implement measures to reduce energy costs, to ensure steady supply of energy, and this is paramount for the sustainability and competitiveness of our enterprises. The other key sector in this region is the flower industry. This flower industry now faces a new challenge with heightened demands from the European Union, which is one of their major markets. The EU's requirements of a 25% increase in inspections for cut rose flowers before accessing their market adds a layer of complexity and cost to flower exporters. Balancing compliance with market standards and ensuring the competitiveness of our flower industry is crucial for sustaining and growing this important sector. So we urge for um, involvement of our policymakers with the EU and other important markets for us to be able to stabilize this kind of situation. We discussed the education sector, looked at the introduction of the competency-based curriculum, which we support, but the reality is that it is not sufficiently funded. There are challenges of infrastructure, human resource, and equipment challenges, which are all required for effective implementation. Unfortunately, the current level of resources in many primary and junior schools is grossly inadequate. This poses a significant challenge to successful implementation of the CBC. Our appeal to the government is to prioritize and allocate adequate resources to all levels of education to ensure the quality and success of competency-based education initiatives across the board. We are also concerned about the level of funding for the university sector, and there is need again to provide adequate funding for us to be able to realize the new funding model which the government has recently introduced. In conclusion, as employers, we commit to continue doing what we can to run our businesses, but this is increasingly difficult because of the challenges that businesses are facing, and we are looking to greater engagement with the government to look at how to stabilize the business environment so that we can focus on doing businesses that give employers a fair return and allow us to keep employees in active service. So our appeal is for engagement as employers, for dialogue to be given a chance so that employers and other stakeholders continue to play the crucial role in nation building and sustaining harmonious labor relations. In this regard, we want to express our gratitude to His Excellency the President for having given mandate to the labor sector entities, the wages councils, to sit down and discuss and see what can be done about the minimum wages, because although there is a demand from workers for an increase, employers are also experiencing challenges in meeting the high labor cost given the increased payroll deductions. And we look forward to meaningful engagement as social partners so that we can strike a balance within the needs of the employees and the needs of enterprises. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for those important questions. The terms of remuneration and the level of pay for our colleagues in the media sector is a matter of concern to us. It is a national issue, and the Federation stands for fair remuneration. I do know that journalists have a union of their own that negotiates their terms and conditions of employment and of service, so they negotiate with their employers to agree on those terms. It is true that the media sector has been undergoing its own challenges. I'm aware of that because they are our members, and they are addressing this issue and engaging on what to do to be able to address the demands for fair remuneration as and also balance it with the demands for continuity of enterprises. This is a problem for all employers in this country. And that is what we've been saying as a Federation of Kenya Employers, that the multiplicity of taxes that have been introduced have pushed up the cost of doing business and lowered the take-home pay of employees. So both sides are suffering, and we need a national conversation on how to stabilize the business environment so that enterprises can get some easing of the pressures they're undergoing in terms of the cost of doing business, and we stop seeing so many people losing jobs because enterprises cannot contain them, media houses included. So they do consult us and we give them support, and we also engage with the trade unions to see what can be done. It is a matter of great concern for us that journalists in the media sector get fair remuneration, but also that the enterprises, the media houses that we have that do an excellent job are able to remain sustainable. So that's an ongoing conversation. We are not yet able to quantify the level of income that is lost due to capital flight, but in talking to our members, we know that roughly one third of them are always reviewing whether or not to scale down their operations in this particular country, given the high cost of doing business, or to relocate or to scale down. This is a matter of major concern to us. For SMEs, this is an ongoing work that FKE does. We do offer them training as a Federation of Kenya Employers, building their capacity in having HR manuals, in adhering to responsible business practices, access to loans, and these kinds of areas. So about 40% of our members are SMEs, so we give them ongoing support. And our key concern is that we build their capacity to improve on their standards, the quality of their products, and we link them to large businesses to be able to give them that support. The rains are a phenomenon that I think has taken all of us by surprise. We do not know the actual impact of the economy in terms of money, but we can see the beating that the infrastructure has taken. Bridges have collapsed, lives have been lost. Last night, if you looked at Nairobi, even the Mombasa highway it was a river. Our concern as employers is our state of readiness to handle this kind of disasters as a nation. The response, I think, from the policymakers and the county governments has not been as fast as we would have wanted. The private sector has on its own initiative been working on how to give direct support to the victims and to see what can be done to give them immediate supplies. So this is something that we need to look at as a nation to see how we can speed up our response rate, because it's going to be a protracted period and it's a conversation that has to continue at company level, at community level, at national level, and at county level. The last question was the conversion of permanent to contractual employees. The issue of flexibility of employment has been an international conversation for a long time, actually over 10 years. And as employers, we saw it as the only option we had to be able to get some leeway in how to manage employee costs and how to manage the number of employees that you have permanent engagement with, because the labor laws are also very stringent when it comes to separation. But it is a reflection of the times that we live in, not just as Kenya, but as a global economy. Of course, coming from the government, it's been quite a difficult message. I think the government is just considering that possibility, but it is what's happening in the rest of the world, that businesses, both the public and private sector, are not able to take on people on permanent and pensionable terms, as has been the case for a long time. What needs to happen is a conversation, dialogue with the employees and with the trade unions to agree on how to manage that transition. If someone is on a permanent and pensionable contract, then you cannot unilaterally, as an employer, change it. There has to be discussion and agreement, and I believe due process will be followed. This is what we do as private sector players when we review the terms and conditions of employment of our unionizable workers. We discuss with the trade unions. If it's more senior people, then you have to engage the individual employee. But I think Kenya is part of the global community, and flexibility in terms of employment is a phenomenon that's happening all over the world, and we cannot be shielded from it as a country.
Thank you. I think we can take a last question. Any other question? We can. Maswali mawili. Swali la gratuity, waajiri wao wanalipa haya malipo kulingana na vile wamekubaliana kwa hiyo kandarasi za kati ya waajiri. Sawa, asante. Nasema kwamba kuhusiana gratuity, waajiri watalipa hiyo gratuity kulingana na kandarasi ambayo wamekubaliana kati ya wafanyikazi na waajiri. Sasa tutafuata sheria ambavyo ilivyo kulingana na sheria ya leba kulipa gratuity. Na tunapoongelea CBA ambazo zimewekwa kati ya serikali na waajiri, of course kuna zile sheria ambazo tunafuata, sheria ambazo zimewekwa tunapoongelea katika hizi mikataba za kati ya waajiri na wafanyikazi. Sasa sisi kama FKE tunaunga mkono kwamba mambo ya haya makubaliano yaende kulingana jinsi ilivyosemwa katika sheria ya Kenya. Asante. Mfumo huo wa kuenda katika contract unapunguza gharama. So unapolinganisha zile gharama, zile za gratuity na zile za permanent terms, utapata kwamba gratuity ni afadhali, kuna zile gharama ambazo zinapunguzwa. Sasa kama members wetu wamejua kwamba wanaenda katika huo mpango, wataweza kujipanga na wawe tayari kukidhi hizo cost, kwa sababu wanapofanya hiyo inamaanisha kwamba wamepunguza gharama zingine ambazo zinakuja na permanent and pension. Yeah. Asante.